Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. That is the name of our radio show. That is the name of this podcast. Martin, Devlin, Lachlan Moore. We do a live show on the platform every afternoon, 1 till 4. It's like a live radio show, only your radio is your telephone. And you have got to download the platform app via your cell phone, and then you can listen like it is live radio. Otherwise, welcome to the podcast, where we pick little bits and pieces from this afternoon's show and condense it into 45 minutes for your drive home. Justin Marshall guesting on the show. What do we take from that victory against Italy? Because was it a bit too easy going into that quarterfinal, that win? A good old rugby league chat with Joel Gould, a man from AAP who spent time inside both dressing rooms post the grand final. His thoughts on what's been a hell of an NRL season. Jay Campbell, CEO of Hawke's Bay, a union in disgrace. Not his fault. But what is he doing to resurrect the reputation of this proud franchise union? And what is he saying to that bunch of losers that he used to be so proud of as players? ATM, the Mark Watson podcast, episode 57. We got a lot of sport to talk. Tablets in hand, I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. Let's dig deep and have a good look at the potential matchups from here on in at the World Cup and go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
This time next week, people, thanks to you, thanks to your generosity, thanks. I don't know how many times I can say thank you. We are so humbled by the donations from you, platform listeners, clients, sponsors that have got together to send me and Lachlan to France. This time next week, we will be in Paris, bringing you the big build-up to the Rugby World Cup quarterfinals. Now, barring an amazing upset, where Scotland beat the world's number one team, Ireland, by 21 or more points, we, the All Blacks, will be facing Ireland in that quarterfinal. The other quarterfinal on our side of the draw will see the hosts, France, play the defending champs, South Africa. Everything as according to pre-cup predictions. The other side, though, still has room for a couple of unknowns. Let's look at Pool C. Wales lead with 14 points. Australia's second, 11 points. Fiji third, 10 points. Wales have to play Georgia. A single point in that game means that they'll get a quarterfinal spot versus the runner-up in Group D. Fiji play Portugal. A single point there sees them qualify, probably second behind Wales. Pool D. England lead and will win the group regardless of the result of their final match versus Samoa. Argentina in second play Japan, who are third. The winner of that match will play the winner of Group C. If it ends in a draw, Argentina would go through on points differential. Japan have to win to be in. So, if results go according, keep up with me here, if results go according to what most people would predict, i.e. there are no real upsets, we play Ireland, South Africa play France, Wales will get Argentina, and England will play Fiji. From there, now this is where you need a pen and paper. The winner of our quarterfinal plays the winner of Wales, Argentina. The winner of France, South Africa plays the winner of England, Fiji. Again, if it all goes to seedings and world rankings, South Africa would play England, Ireland would get Wales, with a South Africa-Ireland replay of their pool match in the final. However, of course, we are hoping that we can upset Ireland, and then we bounce past Wales and meet either the Yarpies or the French in the final. Just remember, upsets can happen, and all the best laid plans of the bookies' predictions can get thrown out the window. It all starts with us versus Ireland. Win that, and then who knows? We are not the top seed, but also we're not out of it yet. We beat Ireland, and bizarrely, because of the semi-final draw, we'd probably become tournament favourite.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
Right now, Lachlan, what have we got? Sports news.
Yeah, I'm going to start off with some developments of sorts involving Hawke's Bay Rugby and their Ranfurly Shield debacle, or the Ranfurly Shield S-word show. Starts with S, ends with it. Get it? Because it that's a bit of alliteration there. Just can't say it.
For your text, Chris.
Yeah. All right. So Hawke's Bay won't be stripped off the Ranfurly Shield, but they can forget about getting their hands on it until until next season.
What are they going to use to snort coke off then? Just a mirror like everyone else does, eh?
Or are they going to be good, upstanding citizens and not put that stuff in their bodies? Did they not listen to Harold the Giraffe in primary school? Did you ever have Harold the Giraffe?
No, we had Sister Thomas, mate. She stuffed Sunlight soap down our necks. A different way of teaching back in those days, Lachlan.
Did you swallow it, or did you
had to eat. She stood there while we were made to eat it, mate. And then the foam was coming out your mouth. It took about a month before you stopped tasting it.
So, New Zealand Rugby is in the process of appointing an independent investigator to explore the shenanigans
That's what you wanted.
which took place during August.
That'll learn them. New Zealand Rugby's going to conduct another review and appoint an investigator.
It's so New Zealand Rugby. It's the most New Zealand Rugby thing you could do. Oh, excuse me. I'm putting an independent investigator to explore the shenanigans. All right. Regardless of what comes out of the inquiry, it's understood any potential sanctions would not include stripping them of the log of wood, which remains broken in half after a player apparently dropped it on a concrete floor. Well, we know that's not true. Come on, we know that's not true. Now, the Springboks have called in 2019 World Cup winner Lucanio Arm to replace the injured Makazole Mapimpi at the Rugby World Cup. Lucanio Arm was one of the big names who's left off the Springboks team ahead of the World Cup, but looks like he's...
Hang on a second. All three of their injured players, Sia Khaleesi, Andre Pollard, and Arm. Oh, no, it was Diego as well.
Lou Diego's the other one, yeah.
The others are all back in the squad now.
They're all back in the squad, yeah. Well,
And they're all going to play.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a bad replacement. Bringing him in, he's one of the best centres in the world.
He's probably the best centre in the world. Exactly. Right, the Black Caps had their final World Cup warm-up last night, well, overnight, should I say, ahead of the Cricket World Cup. Of course, their first game on Thursday up against England, Thursday night New Zealand time. They took on South Africa, a 7-run victory via the DLS method. New Zealand starting off with 321 for 6, 350 over. South Africa 211 for 4 in response. They needed 219, couldn't get there, though. Pretty good showing from Devon Conway, who had 78 of 73. Tom Latham with 56. Glenn Phillips had 43. Trent Bolt took the most with 2 wickets, 2 for 20 runs. He's looking pretty damn good. All right, Chelsea played this morning in the Premier League and they won a game, which they just don't do these days. 2-0 they beat Fulham away from home, so the victory puts Chelsea up to 11th on the table. Hey, they're just behind you, Martin. They're just behind
I'd take a 2-0 win every day of the week in any game, mate. I'd take a goal.
You'd take a draw probably at this rate.
Yeah. Right.
And finally, Kiwi NBA star Stephen Adams has said he's in a good spot to return to the court for the Memphis Grizzlies season after a troublesome knee injury. Adams missed the Grizzlies' playoff run last season after hurting his knee in January, and while at the time he was only expected to miss a few weeks, the injury continued to flare up and eventually ended his season. He said, "I definitely got blue-balled, mate, for sure." He's speaking at a media day. "I thought I was all good, and then we checked with the docs, and there were just some setbacks, and that's the nature of the injury. But it looks like sounds like he's all good going forward for the start of the NBA season." All right, Martin, that's what's making news.
Devlin,
That is a disgusting act.
the platform.
Justin Marshall, 81 Test veteran for the All Blacks, our man en France. He's commentating for Super Sport. We beat Italy, 14 tries, 96 points. But there's an asterisk beside it, isn't there? I mean, ask yourself, you just don't know, what are we meant to take from that victory? Because we know for a couple of things that Ireland are not going to miss 37 tackles, are they? And they are going to physically confront us, unlike the Italians who put their tanks in reverse, just like they did decades ago in the African desert. So, Justin's thoughts on exactly the preparation that we need to play that quarterfinal, and was that match against Italy sufficient enough? New Zealand versus Italy. What do we make of that? What do you make of that?
You know what? I knew that was a question coming to me from you, Devs, and I was thinking about how I boil this down and also how I don't seem negative, because how do you be negative about a complete performance? 14 tries, a comprehensive win, probably should have even got to 100, and everything that the All Blacks went out there with in terms of intent. So physicality, set piece, everything functioned really, really well, and they annihilated the opposition. And it's opposition that is tenacious and it has shown that they have improved incredibly over the last decade at least. So you throw that all into the mix, but then you go, they were not there on the day. Like tackling at 63% and falling off 38 tackles, that's not a side that is at the level that they should be at. And I just have to throw into the mix. We spoke about this French game and the South African game at Twickenham. They were the two biggest tests for the All Blacks to show exactly that when they get into a real tough game, they can fight their way out of it. They can win those matches. Well, we know what happened in both of them. I thought hopefully Italy would offer some resistance and ask some questions, but they asked none. Not one single question, not with really ball in hand until the last moment of the game. And I just wonder whether or not it was a game that the All Blacks needed, given that they've got Uruguay coming up and then a quarterfinal knockout of the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, this is the concerns that we all have as well. I love the fact that afterwards, though, Dane Coles and I can't remember, it might have been Scott McLeod said afterwards, look, we're not getting carried away with that. I mean, that's the attitude I wanted to hear more than anything else. Yeah,
no, you're bang on. And they're the right people to be saying and sending those messages. But you can't replicate, tough rugby anywhere apart from being in the match and being in the grind. And the All Blacks just simply haven't had that since Paris, and they won't get it next week either. So unfortunately for them, like I said, Italy threw up no resistance. And when you see Artie's try, Aaron Smith's try, where there's tacklers there and they just fell off them, they're not all of a sudden, these guys haven't become supermen where tacklers can't tackle them. That I know that I'm not saying that disrespectfully to their talent and their skills, but these are tackles that should be being made and making it hard for the opposition to cross the line. Like regularly, the All Blacks are breaking tackles and making line breaks. And, the thing about it is that's the reason the All Blacks won't be getting carried away. But it's like, well, where are you going to get that edge? Who's going to harden you up? Like South Africa, like Ireland in particular are. Look, at the end of the day, the one encouragement, I guess, that we've got, should we progress into this tournament, and I'm very hopeful that we do, is France are in the same boat. Like at the end of the day, they have had no resistance since the All Blacks game, and they've got the same teams in their pool. So the other teams that are prospering, there's a mouth-watering game this weekend with Ireland versus Scotland. The Fiji game, is going to be really, really interesting. Can they lift against Portugal and knock Australia out? All these teams are really having to get into the grind, whereas we just simply have to sort of turn up and, after 20 minutes, what the result is going to be. So mentally, they have a massive mountain to climb, the All Blacks, to get themselves ready for a quarterfinal, because what they've got left is not going to take them to the place they need to be to create that edge. So they need to be creating it at training.
Justin Marshall, 81 Test for the All Blacks for us, calling it all for Super Sport there in France. You've been in that environment, 81 Tests. You've been in situations where you are thrashing opponents and then you've got another hard opponent. I don't think the fundamentals of the processes and the systems in place have changed, Justin. I know that the training changes and players change, all of that, but I believe that, I hope that the ethos and the understanding of what's ahead is exactly the same. So you put yourself in that headspace. You're in that All Black camp right now. What are you saying to the other guys?
Well, I think you're just trying to continually remind yourself that what you're going to face is going to be much, much more tougher than what you're facing at the moment. And somehow you've got to get your head around that, when you run a really good line and you bust the tackle, that against what you're going to come up against when it comes to quarterfinals, semi-final, finals of Rugby World Cup, they're going to make that tackle. So then you have to reset and then reset and then reset. And that's the hard part of being in a pool like the All Blacks are in. Can they get their headspace into that area of what we're doing is still really, really good. And you cannot fault your game plan, the execution, anything that they did. And they look ruthless, they look hungry. Let me throw this out there. I really loved the little moment in the game when the All Blacks were already up by 20-odd points. Something happened close to the line. It was a clap small or a breakdown near the line, and Brodie Retallick took umbrage against one of the Portugal players. He gave him a good old-fashioned push in the chest, or sort of more in the sort of throat area. And he had a look on him like he was going to absolutely rip his head off. And then he gave him a verbal as well. And I thought to myself, your attitude for me, the way that you have just approached that, this is just a little micro moment in the game, shows me that your head is there.
Yeah.
You are priming yourself for what you're going to face in about 2.5 weeks' time. I liked seeing that. And you think, Marshy, where did we pick that out of? Like, there were so many amazing tries, 14 tries, skill set galore, goal kicking was immaculate. But that's what I look for. That's the edge that we need, that we are not going to take a backward step. And the fact that we were up by that many points and Retallick was still filthy at this guy and he wasn't going to take basically any crap from him made me think, okay, yeah, maybe they are creating what we need to really grit our teeth for a big game.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Minister of Common Sense gets involved.
We need to talk
About the Rugby World Cup.
We need to talk.
Quick fire questions, Lachlan. Justin says his biggest disappointment is Argentina. I'm asking you, who's your biggest disappointment at the Rugby World Cup out of Australia and Italy?
Oh, Australia, absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Oh, I expect more from Italy. They're a Six Nations side. They've been in the Six Nations for like 20 years, mate.
Wallabies are missing out on the knockout stage for the first time ever.
Yeah, their team's crap.
Well, Italy aren't that great. But did you think they'd get out of the group?
Well, not really, but I thought they'd at least put up a bit more of a showing.
Well, they haven't played France yet.
Oh,
so you never know.
Okay, yeah, so right, they're going to do. Keep that under 50, are they?
I really thought the Wallabies had a great chance of making the
No, but that's because you
semi-finals.
believed in Eddie Jones, mate.
Yeah, I like everyone, I think.
Who's been more average, Argentina or Georgia?
Argentina. I think as much as Georgia, like they got a good win over Wales last year, and over the last few years they've pushed some of these bigger teams and at least look in a position to compete with the likes of maybe Italy and Tonga and Samoa and even in Japan at a stretch. I think it was always a bit of a bridge too far for them to get out of their group. Whereas Argentina should be right there with England.
This is a team that got third in 2007, Argentina. They
And 15, they came fourth.
They haven't gone
15.
on, have they?
Next!
By the way, they missed out on the knockout stage last tournament. Argentina.
Who should have been better, Samoa or Tonga?
Now, Tonga have had their guys longer, haven't they? Sorry, when I say their guys,
They've been in camp a bit longer.
Well, no, more so the former All Blacks who've now become eligible for these sides. I'm pretty damn sure Tonga have had access to those sooner, or at least had them together in a squad for longer. So I would have expected them to probably do better. Then again, they were in Pool B, which has South Africa, Ireland, and Scotland. So them actually, I think Samoa probably had more of a chance to get out of their group, but I think Tonga have a better team.
Yeah, I was
was
expecting a bigger Samoa. I really was. Who could spring a quarterfinal surprise? Fiji or Argentina, who are probably going to play Wales?
Argentina. But
Fiji beat England prior to the World Cup.
Yeah, I know, but England have looked pretty damn good this tournament.
Well, I don't think they've looked great. They've done what they've had to do.
Wow, South Africa did that in 2007
Look at
and
their group, mate.
2019.
If we were playing in that group, we would have dicked everyone by 60 points.
Probably not Argentina.
Well, you just
60.
said they were average, mate. They've been average.
Yeah, no, running in circles now, aren't I? I just don't think I just don't think Fiji can beat England. I think Fiji are an untidy team. And look, that was a World Cup warm-up. I mean, I don't think we can really read into that too much. And I think England have looked pretty. I think they've played well. I really do.
Does Ireland have anything to fear from Scotland? Can Scotland beat them by 21 points and make it through? 21 points.
Well, it doesn't have to just be that.
21 points they've got to put on them. More, that's the gap.
Well, they also have to get a bonus point.
No, yeah, so
Scotland.
So do Ireland have anything
Well, if they get a bonus point and deny Ireland a bonus point,
Ireland have anything
don't go
to
through.
fear?
Ireland don't go through.
Do Ireland have anything to fear?
No. If you look at the table,
do they have anything to fear?
Hold up. You've got in your what's the word here? Your process is wrong. If Scotland get a bonus point and win,
but they have to win by 21 points.
And deny Ireland a bonus point, Ireland don't go through.
Hawke's Bay Rugby, an absolute disgrace. It's not just busting the Ranfurly Shield by behaving like a bunch of buffheads. It's also the cavorting and the snorting. Many, many questions around this. Why haven't the players been drug tested? Why won't they be drug tested? Why hasn't the shield been swabbed? Why won't the shield be swabbed? And the sheer embarrassment for a guy like Jay Campbell, who's the CEO of that union, and they have spent so much time integrating this team into the community and doing so many good deeds after Cyclone Gabrielle, all of that has been washed away like those floods. Jay Campbell, a very disappointed man on your platform. I read your press statement, your initial press statement, and obviously you're only going on what you've been told. I took a breadboard last night, a really nice breadboard as a matter of fact. I just wanted to do an experiment, and I threw that damn thing onto the concrete path as hard as I could. It already had a split in it. It didn't split in half like the Shield. So this is my conclusion as to what happened, and you can agree or disagree with it. We all know that the players celebrate and that they celebrate hard after these things. Now, that Shield has got a reputation after everyone wins it of all kinds of things go on, and whether it got jumped on or humped on or whether somebody fell on it or whatever. These things happen. That's an accident. I think most of us can accept that. Do you agree?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, there's lots of speculation around what happened. I can only go on what the players told me, and in my view, it was a genuine accident, right? So I'm comfortable with that, and I believe most people will accept that.
Jay, I'll have to interrupt you. I disagree with that, mate. I think most people think it's completely farcical and think it's a joke that we're trying to be told to believe that it fell off a kitchen table, mate. If that was a baby, the baby would be dead.
No, I don't think we said it fell off a kitchen table. I think we said somebody dropped it. Right?
How on earth can it split in two when you drop it? What height did they use? Were they on the Sky Tower at the time, were they?
Well, not everyone's my size, Martin. So, again, all I'm telling you is the facts of everyone that's corroborated around what actually went on, and they have been honest around what went on, and so I take them at their word on that.
How honest are they about the powder on the Shield then in that case if they're being honest?
Well, that's something that I think the NZRU review will flush out. I think that's underway and that will come out in due course as to what happened and what that is. I'm massively disappointed about obviously what happened post the damage on the Shield. That for me is massive, disrespectful enough to break it, but to do the other things is, I'm really struggling to get my head around that.
Have you swabbed the Shield? Did you bring in the P guys who drug test things like that? Because that should have happened straight away. Have you done that?
No.
Why not?
As I said to you, Martin, it's NZR have undertaken a review. The Shield was asked to be returned straight back to Wellington, which we've done, and that's now at NZRU. So whatever they do with it from now on will be part of their investigation, I guess. Are
you going to drug test your players?
As I said to you, mate, the NZRU are in charge of this investigation, so it's their investigation. Every player that signs a contract is actually contracted to New Zealand Rugby, and they have to adhere to the rules and regulations of the New Zealand Players Collective Employment Agreement. So therefore they are undertaking that, which we're fully supportive of, and we will support them as much as we can for that.
You're an adult, I'm an adult. We both know that unless those players are drug tested in 48 hours, the drugs are out of their systems.
I wasn't aware, but yeah, carry on.
My point being is that without doing that, without drug testing them, aren't you enabling this behaviour? Jay, what I'm trying to say to you, mate, is simple. This is not your deal. This is not your problem. You're a CEO of an organisation doing your very best under difficult circumstances with New Zealand domestic rugby at the moment. And you're doing a hell of a job. And I admire the job that you're doing there. These guys are going to destroy your career, mate. Are you prepared to let that happen?
Well, let's just say that there's an investigation going on, Martin. And it's not for me to publicly or privately suggest that people are going to be drug tested, but there's an investigation going on as we speak.
Just for the general public, though, and again, we're all adults. There's two ways that this could have gone down. Some clown thinks it's a great idea to put powder on it, a straw, cut things into lines, and pretend they're snorting drugs. There's that, and if you believe in that, we're still believing in Santa Claus, or they were actually doing it. Is that a fair comment?
I look at speculation, mate. Again, I think the investigation that New Zealand's going to run is going to flush all this out. And look, we're not hiding from it, right? The pictures are clear, and we're not running away from that. But at the end of the day, mate, as you know, when investigations go underway, you have to follow the process. So we're doing that. We're supportive of that, and there are things going on at the moment which we're 100% supportive and following through with. So, we can talk about all different scenarios, but ultimately at the end of the day, I 100% hear you, and that will all come out in the wash. There is no running away from this, right? These young men have to be made accountable if things like that happen. We have strict protocols, which obviously went out the window. We'll look at our own reviews, but ultimately at the end of the day, these are young men that have to make their own decisions when it's at 7:30 plus in the morning.
Yeah, and they made terrible decisions. They made bad decisions. Who was the guy that took the photos? Do you know?
No, we don't, and that's disappointing. Again, let's be clear here. There's a whole lot of other people that are non-Hawke's Bay / Magpies involved in this, right? And that's no excuse by any stretch. I'm just saying that those are the facts. There are a whole lot of other people involved here as well. But it's, really disappointing. As I said, damaging the shield and disrespecting our great Tonga, which I have so much history.
Same, mate.
It's so aligned.
I love that trophy, mate. All of us of the age. Yeah, we love it, mate.
Right?
Yeah.
So in that regard, that was tough enough. But to see the behaviour of those videos and photos, yeah, mate, that's a tough one for me, because it just goes to show that people do not respect what we hold so dearly for those of us of a generation, and it's really sad.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. The Minister of Common Sense...
We need to talk.
...says we must acknowledge a little bit of email support that has been pouring into the program for the Hawke's Bay Rugby Union.
Next!
Beleaguered support for a union under a lot of stress before we go to the NRL and talk to Joel Gould from AAP about the season. In no particular order. Dear Magpies, what a bunch of idiots. What morons would ever take a post-match pic of themselves with drugs and put it up on social media? God, you guys are clowns. Sincerely yours, Valentine Holmes. That's kind of nice, isn't it? Dear Hawke's Bay, what a bunch of jerks. What a bunch of jerks. Thanks to you, no one's talking about me anymore, and that sucks. Yours bitterly, Eddie Jones. Oh, I could understand. Dear Hawke's Bay, I thought it was us who are not fit for purpose. Sincerely yours, New Zealand Rugby. Oh, and this one. I don't know whether I should read this one or not. Dear Magpies, I don't know what all the fuss is about. At least you didn't smear jelly meat on your Johnson and get your mate's dog to lick it off. Joel Monaghan, former Canberra Raider.
Devlin.
You've got to love sport.
How good was the grand final? How good has this NRL season been? So many highlights. The introduction of a brand new team. Let's not forget the Dolphins. And they led the table after the first few rounds. The rise and rise and rise are the Warriors. The two best teams slugging out. Well, if it's not the best grand final that we've seen, it certainly rates alongside 2015, certainly rates alongside 1989 as one of the very best. And the emergence of a man who will be an immortal in Nathan Cleary. From AAP, Joel Gould. He was in the dressing rooms, both Penrith and Brisbane, post-match. A good old rugby league chat. You look for big men and big moments, don't you? And here's a guy who... If you ever had any doubts about his greatness, is what I'm talking about. Not even the longevity, but his greatness. There it was.
Yeah, that's right. And I spoke to Darren Lockyer in the Broncos dressing room, and he was obviously devastated. But Darren said in the story I filed for AAP that it reminded him of Andrew Johns in the 2005 Origin series, where Joey kicked a 40-20, and then 3 tries came from that. Nathan's legacy is already enormous, as Lockyer said to me, and it's just incredible to think what he might achieve with, who knows how many more years, 8 to 10 you'd imagine to go, and he's won 3 comps. But this was a defining moment in his career. The Panthers were down and out. He lost Jerome Ruai, he lost his co-captain, and he stands up and delivers on the biggest stage when his team needed him to. So 100%, it's just incredible what he's already achieved at such a tender age. We forget he's only 25.
How important also for the NRL in general that not only was this just such a cracker of a season, but a fantastic grand final. And I say that when you add the Women's Football World Cup just excited Australia to a level that nobody ever believed would have been possible. The attendances, the television ratings and everything else. And then you've got the Wallabies falling by the wayside at this, but you had a great AFL Grand Final, and so important, I thought, for the NRL. I mean, just to be able to put itself up on the same stage and say, look at our product.
Yeah, exactly. Look, we saw in the final series, a really good point you make there, I think, because we saw in the final series there were a lot of lopsided results, okay? But in this grand final, it was a humdinger. We're talking about it as one of the great grand finals. That was really important after we'd seen such a great, like you said, AFL grand final, which went right down to the wire. But the thing I think stands out to me about the season, and not just the grand final, but even the preliminary finals, is that the Warriors were there, the Melbourne Storm were there, the Broncos were there, and the Panthers were there. So
Good
we've
point.
got
Great point.
teams from all across the regions. And I think the fact that the Warriors did so well, I think, is just so important for the NRL as well, because we saw the groundswell of support for the team in New Zealand and across here. I saw it myself in the prelim final here at Suncorp. So I think that what we've seen is the right mix of teams also doing well. We need the Warriors to do well. We need the Broncos to do well, and that's what we've seen in this season. So it's been capped beautifully by the grand final.
Joel Gould, AAP, with us out of Brisbane on the platform, and I'll add to that the extended comp with the Dolphins in as well. Important that they weren't a rubbish team. Important that, I mean, look, they led the league after 3 or 4 games. You know, so they expanded, added another team. That team was decent. That team was genuine. So that's just a little cherry on top.
It is, and Wayne Bennett actually said at the presentation night, he made a really interesting point, I thought. He said that the first month of football was so important for the Dolphins, where people had written them off and looked at their roster and said, they're not going to win any games. So, everyone had them basically winning a wooden spoon. But Wayne made the point, and it was very important, I think, too, that the way they started the season, where they were in the top 8 for a long part of it, was really important to the foundation club that they are. And, of course, they did have some very cruel injuries there towards the end, lost their forward leader in Tom Gilbert. And they've recruited well for next year with Farnworth and Flegler, of course, coming from the Broncos and Amarillo. So, yeah, very important, Martin, that the Dolphins played the way they did, and they packed out all their regional grounds that they played at, and they averaged over 30,000 at Suncorp. So, yeah, very important that they were good.
We're having a good old rugby league chat here, Joel, and I've got a couple of questions I want to ask you. Let's go back to the Warriors. You mentioned the Warriors. Obviously, yeah, New Zealand went ape over this, that whole up the wires thing. I mean, I hope people remember that wasn't there at the start of the season. This actually grew, and the first moment that I caught a whiff of it was away at Parramatta, where you heard through the television here in New Zealand, you heard the Warriors chant go up at that ground. It was like, what? Wow, how many fans are there? And then it happened at Newcastle again. My question for you is, can the Warriors go again like this next year, or is the rest of the league going to be ready? Because I still feel in the back of my mind that I don't know whether teams took them as seriously as they might now take them seriously, if you know what I mean.
I think they can definitely do exactly what they did this year and possibly even more. I mean, I just look at the team, and I look at the forward pack led by Adam Fanua-Blake. I look at the key positions, which they've got beautifully covered with Chance, Johnson. They've got options at number 6, and one of the most improved hookers in Wade Egan. They've got a coach that seems to have been able to, what Mitch Barnett said to me here when I did an interview with him. He just gets it. He gets what life's about, what rugby league's about, what makes players tick. I don't see any reason why they can't continue what they achieved this year. There's obviously some players have played above and beyond what people probably expected them to, and the addition of Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, I think that's going to be a huge bonus to them. So I see no reason why they can't continue in the vein that, and I think it's a good point you make. Like I think the Dolphins probably were in the same boat. People were thinking, and teams had no video to go on with them, right? So they didn't know how they were going to play. The Warriors, I don't think anyone will be taking them for granted, and I don't think anyone did once the season unfolded, because the Warriors had to win some really big games away from home. So it's not as though they didn't do it the hard way. They did. That they probably had a kind of draw, for instance, in the Broncos, but they still had to win their games. I mean, they did everything and more to get to where they did.
Let's talk to them about all that
Five.
stuff. 5 separate sporting topics, those 60 seconds on each. Ring the bell. We move on to the next one. Why do we celebrate Ivan Cleary getting absolutely shellacked and appearing on Australian breakfast television, looking like that, and yet the Hawke's Bay players get fully condemned for getting as slathered, Lachlan? Is there an easy answer to that? Do the All Blacks rest and rotate our players or play the same 23 versus Uruguay? Liverpool say that, I quote, sporting integrity has been undermined following the VAR failure to award them a goal against Tottenham on the weekend. Should Hawke's Bay have to put the shield up against Bay of Plenty this weekend, or should they forfeit it completely? Black Caps win by 7 runs versus South Africa in a rain-shortened warm-up match. The Cricket World Cup is underway. Is it Thursday? I think it's Thursday, isn't it? Thursday or Friday might be New Zealand time. And this is 2 days after a 5-wicket win over Pakistan. What are we meant to take by any of those? Ivan Cleary to start with, though, because we all loved that, did we not? The footage of him had one eye going left, one eye ringing around, and you just thought, my God, this guy is completely slathered. However, he was in such a happy mood. He kept it together enough to answer the questions. He was a bit cheeky. And it was something that was just really fun, and no one was offended by it at all. So what is the difference, Lachlan? Because Jay Campbell's telling us there the whole time that, these young men. It's just a pathetic excuse for errant behaviour. And in my mind, it just entitles these losers to keep behaving like that. It enables their behaviour. Unless somebody is prepared to stand up in front of them and say, you bunch of bums. You're a bunch of bums. That's what you are. But nobody's going to do that, are they? Because New Zealand Rugby are going to conduct a review. How long is that going to take?
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
it's not going to be finished by the end of the year.
And the frustrating thing is it's not going to be a serious string of punishments to the players.
No, they're not. They're not going to name and shame anybody. They're going to say, let me tell you what's going to happen. Inconclusive results as far as any swabbing goes, right? So they're not bringing in any drug testers at all. Inconclusive results. And if they do drug test any players, it probably won't be till after this weekend. So therefore, they're going to have none of the crap that they inhaled or snorted or whatever last weekend. And that is because this is a total embarrassment for New Zealand Rugby. They don't want a provincial side in a dead competition not fit for purpose, full of drug. Well, I'm not going to call them drug cheats. I'm just going to call them druggies because that's what they are. Yeah. And it's too embarrassing for them. So it's a hell of a lot easier just to hot potato this thing. Oh, employment processes. Oh, reviews, investigations. Oh, no, it's theirs. It's yours. It's theirs. It's yours. Yeah. Nothing changes, people. I've been dealing with this for 25 years. I've been banging the same drum for 25 years. And I'll tell you who gets blamed in the end. The guy on this side of the microphone. It's your fault. It's your fault for asking the questions. What kind of an a-hole are you? That's what I'm waiting for. And probably a good blacklist along with that as well, so you won't get any more interviews out of them, right? That's what happens this end. Tell you what, vote with your feet, people. If you're upset, vote with your feet. Don't turn up. Don't turn up and watch any of these teams play, if that's the case. Do the All Blacks rest and rotate? Well, you decide. It's up to you to decide what you think is appropriate. Do the All Blacks rest and rotate or play the same 23 versus...
Same 23.
Well, give me a reason why not to. Okay, just put that hat on for a second. Because the other players need to get some game time before the quarterfinal.
Injury concerns, maybe. Yeah. But there's no reason. There's no reason. Play. If you beat them 160-0, fine. Great. But there's no reason for you to get your best 23 and go, guys, take the week off, go and lie on a beach somewhere, and then come back and get ready for Ireland.
After listening to Justin Marshall, are you convinced or do you have doubts now as to the validity of that test win against Italy in terms of preparation?
No,
not the result.
No, I don't, because Italy don't play a style, I would think. No, they don't play a style that makes us uncomfortable. Because we like to play at pace when we can. And the thing that makes us damn near unbeatable, or has so over the last 10 to 15 years, has been when we can match that with a really bruising physical forward pack who can stand up to the likes of England and South Africa and Ireland in this case this year. We don't have that at the moment. But when we play a team like Italy, who also likes to play fast-running rugby, it's sort of a clash of styles, so who can do better out of those two teams, I would think. So when we come up against Ireland or South Africa, you know, the way they play will be to suffocate us in the middle, cut off the supply, so when our backs are going, oh, well, we were making those really good runs against Italy a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not getting the ball now. Oh, it's not getting past the second receiver.
When you played bull rush at school, did you like to play against the fast, skinny guys
I was the fast
who might touch you, or were you more wary of the big buffers who were just there to smash?
I was wary of the quick guys, because I was quick as well, so I could just run around the fat guys.
But who would you rather go running against? The quick guys, because at least you had a chance, right? You didn't want to play the big bruisers in the middle, mate, because if they caught you...
I'd just run around them, though. I'd never had any trouble with that. I was a sprinter in my day. Wasn't that long ago, because I'm only 25, but I was a sprinter. It was when I was 9 or 10 years old,
ladies and gentlemen,
at Plunket Bay Primary School. So I moved to primary school. So I had my last 2 years at Plunket Bay Primary. No. We got the whole school involved, and I mean like all year levels. Like there were year 3s playing with year 6s in bull rush, and we made a tackle, and it was great. It was a hit. Everyone was there at lunch. It was sensational, and we got in a lot of trouble because I think we got year 3s and year 4s involved in tackle bull rush and whatnot. But it was great. Best schoolyard game.
Catholic school, we weren't allowed to play in uniform. We had to have overs. They're called overs. You had to take a bag of ugly old clothes to school and leave them at school, and you put those on over your school uniform and you played in overs, right? Yeah. So that they got muddy. Is that a brilliant idea?
Well, schools now have PE kits.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So that sounds like a real povo school you went to.
Should Hawke's Bay have to put the shield on?
No.
Why not?
Because the rules are that you don't. In the finals.
The rules are that you don't snort coke off it and break it as well, mate. Right?
Yeah. But also they're playing on the road, so you wouldn't put it up on an away game.
Okay.
I think actually the Ranfurly Shield should be put up every week, regardless of where you play.
Have you seen Jimmy Bucket's hair? Have you? Jimmy Butler, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why I just brought this up. Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has turned up at a press conference looking like Janine Butler, hasn't he? It's just the weirdest thing. You're just sitting there going, what on earth?
It's like an emo girl head.
What the hell? This is Jimmy Butler cornrows, right? This is Jimmy Buckets. This is the guy that dragged Miami, kicking and screaming into the final. Have a look at it online. Anyway, let's move on. Black Caps win by 7 runs versus SA. Rain shortened, beat Pakistan a couple of days before that. What does this mean going into the Cricket One Day World Cup?
Not a lot, I would think, because it's a blimmin' warm-up. Tim Southee didn't play, did he? Kane Williamson didn't play.
Yeah, although talking to Dooley last week, he reckons that Southee isn't first choice. He reckons that Matt Henry, Lockie Ferguson and Trent Bolter are 3 strike bowlers.
I was going to say, as a strike bowler in limited overs, I wouldn't think Southee would be. He does, especially as he's gotten a bit older in his last couple of years.
And on those wickets, yeah, he can get hit.
He's been sensational at test level, but the other two he hasn't.
Yeah, I know, not in the white ball stuff, eh? Yeah, I'm worried about that with him in India. Last topic then, before we go to HK Wong, start talking NFL. Liverpool say sports integrity has been undermined.
Agreed.
And they've requested from Pigmole. Now, Pigmole is the professional referees, something MO, something L, something league, something whatever it is. Anyway, they want the audio of the discussions between the match officials. What difference does it make, mate? They got it wrong. They cocked it up. Everyone knows
Because if people sit there, I agree with you to an extent. If people sit there and go, oh, well, they apologise, let's just move on. Oh, nothing can be done now. We can't get the points back. Then they're just going to do it again. I saw a list on Twitter last night. It's all the VAR apologies, essentially, and all the games, and then a little blurb underneath about all the decisions they got wrong since the start of last season. There's about 25 of them.
Okay, so what's the answer? The answer is to remove VAR.
Get rid of VAR.
Get rid of VAR. And if you do have...
Give total control to the
referees. And if you do have VAR, which is the referee, like the NFL guy, goes to the sideline and has a look, he can only watch it in real time because that's how our eyes see it. And so that's the same as offside, same as everything else. The lino, the refs are all watching it in real time. And if you get it fractionally wrong...
I'd say the answer is to give total control to the refs, as we say, but then if they are confused about... if there's they have to be forthright with their decisions, but if there's something they go, I'm not so sure about that, they have the choice to go back and look at that screen on the side and then determine it for themselves.
Totally that.
Yeah.
That's it. But they have to decide. They don't get a voice in their ear.
No voice in their ear.
Same as the TMO in rugby to me. Remove it from the thing. The ref refs the game, and if the ref says, I'm not sure, did he ground the ball, I will go look at it, and I want to see 6 angles in real time. That's it. Not minutiae of microseconding it down to the very last inch blade of grass and all of that.
Devlin.
ATM, apologise to me, Mark Watson. Episode 57 of the podcast. We do this every Tuesday. A man of much international broadcasting acclaim. We have got issues to discuss. Come on down, Watto. Let's do it again. Let's talk about the All Blacks. The All Blacks are back, baby. We put 96 on Italy. Look out the rest of the world. Mark, you were impressed? How much?
Yeah, interesting one. Look, no one can take 96 points away from the All Blacks. And, yeah, you can try and find some fault in it, I guess, but no other side in the world could have done that to the Italians. Look, the Italians were woeful. Let's not kid ourselves. I think they were overhyped and overstimulated, and I think psychologically they just don't believe they can beat New Zealand. But New Zealand put out a really, really good performance. But the Italians clearly are a very contrasting team to what we're going to get from either South Africa, Scotland or Ireland. I'd like to, from a quarter-final preparation point of view, I'd like to have seen more of a contest. I couldn't gauge from that, Martin, whether this All Black team has legitimately improved in those key areas that we failed in when it came to the loss against France and the big loss to South Africa.
Marshy was saying the same. He was saying the same earlier on the show. It's just you don't know. That's the biggest takeaway. We don't know. What we do know is that Ireland are not going to miss 63% of the tackle, or 37% of the tackles. They're not going to miss all those. We know that, right? That's what we know.
And look, and I think if this was a test match outside of the World Cup, it'd go down as one of the great performances and one of the worst performances in Italian history. But this will mean nothing if we lose that quarterfinal. It's just a pool play, and who remembers the 100 points we put on them. So there's a part of me that I think we would have want to come out of that a little bit more battle hardened, and we didn't. And now we've got Uruguay, where I look at Ireland, and it could be detrimental to them, but they've had that hard game against South Africa. They're going to have a really hard game against Scotland, and they're going to have they're in a mindset, and they're going to be able to they're at that level mentally. And that was my concern, that it was just a bit too easy for the All Blacks, and you can easy to get ahead of yourself. But you still at the same time have to celebrate that All Black performance for what it was.
And we have to celebrate it. But the great thing is that the players came out afterwards and say, let's not read too much into that, which gives me a lot of confidence and faith. Liverpool in that game against Spurs, and now Liverpool saying that the whole of integrity of sport has been called into question. Look, the points aren't going to be shared. The game is not going to be replayed. We've harped on about this. We're going to keep harping on about it because somebody needs to bang a drum. To me, it just comes back now to this obsession we have, and it's what you always say. Human beings, none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. We have got to accept that the referee will make mistakes like the players make mistakes. The lino's going to make mistakes. I just think we need to remove all of this from it. Goal line technology was great. The offside line is debatable even now with the computer technology. That particular thing on the weekend, the guy on the VAR just got completely confused in his own mind. He thought that a goal had been awarded when in actual fact a goal hadn't been awarded, and he just said play on goal, and he didn't realise. And so, the referee thought that he was saying the wrong. And I mean, it's just a stuffer. But this is because now we are so nervous about getting everything right that we're getting it wrong, even though it's in front of our eyes. To me, it's insanity, isn't it? You got two people looking at the same thing and coming up with two completely different conclusions when it's so clear and obvious. Is there an answer to this? My answer is to remove the friggin' technology, let the referee call the game, let the linos call the game, and if the ref feels he's got a gut instinct, something's not right, he can then go to the television monitor and look at it like they do in the NFL.
Yeah, don't disagree. Look, it's amazing, isn't it? We saw, I think it was the New Zealand women's football team at the World Cup, not being given a goal against Switzerland by the tiniest millimetres of margins being called offside. And yet here you've got a situation with Luis Diaz for Liverpool clearly onside and the goal is not awarded. And how you can get that wrong is just absolutely beyond me, whether it be a breakdown in communication or what. I mean, this is not the Bartercard Cup for Rugby League in Auckland. This is the English Premier League. What's at stake here? A top four, which will come down to probably a point, 2 points, which is worth $100 million to the clubs. This has got huge economic consequences for these decisions getting wrong. I'm with you. I've got no problem with Genuine human error. We all get things wrong. No one intentionally does it. You see coaches often, an athlete won't perform. The coach doesn't give them a program because they want them to go wrong. They just didn't quite get it right. But when it comes to the English Premier League, just simply not good enough. Look, I even think, I know you probably think differently, but you do just look at the red card handed out too, and you watch it in full speed. He comes and makes contact with the ball, rolls over the top of the ball, and it looks like a terrible foul. And, and maybe I'm seeing things through Liverpool eyes here, but you hear Jurgen Klopp, and he says it. The game is not played in slow motion. Stop slowing everything down.
Totally agree.
Because it often just works so skewed. How many times do you see a try being given away because he's got downward pressure? You watch it in full speed, and there's no way he's in control.
No, look, I totally agree with you, mate. I've always said we see it in real time. I see it in real time. If you're going to watch a replay, you watch it in real time. And if you can't decide, well, then let the referee decide, because it's not the minutiae. We can't do that. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.